folks, this is wildlife biologist Eric Orff with my New Hampshire Fish and Wildlife YouTube channel. This is mid-January, and this time of year my mind often reflects back on what I call New Hampshire's 7 sleepers. Who are New Hampshire's 7 sleepers? Well, actually maybe 20 or 25 years ago I wrote an article about our 7 sleepers. And after that, for a few years, I actually developed a slide presentation where I went to a few conservation groups and I talked about our 7 sleepers here in New Hampshire. So here it is, mid-winter, January. We've certainly had a January thaw. I had 5 or 6 inches of hard, crusty snow that I was a little worried would be impacting our wildlife, because they certainly couldn't dig or scrape through it to get to, say, acorns. So they had a couple of tough weeks around here. But last weekend, the snow went between Saturday and Sunday. Sunday hit a record high of 65 in Concord, and how about that here? So yes, most of the snow is gone. Our fields are bare here in central New Hampshire, Epsom. So who's sleeping through the winter? Well, we got the true hibernators. And who are they? Number one, woodchucks. Woodchucks, I have talked about, you know, they go into hibernation in September or no later than October, and will sleep until next April or so. So true hibernators, woodchucks, you know, their metabolism drops way down, their body temperature drops way down. I have never actually witnessed a hibernating woodchuck, but the next 2 true sleepers, hibernators, I have seen. Back in the 80s, the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department began to look for wintering bats in a few caves here in New Hampshire. They're actually not, they are caves, but they're actually old mines. Mostly lead mines. I think one might have been a silver mine here in New Hampshire. I think it's around 85, 84, 85, we went into the first one, an old lead mine, and there were 100 or so bats, 150 bats in there. Not a great deal. They kind of hung from the ceiling, almost like grapes, in a you know, kind of often in bunches. And we examined and counted them. They were mostly little brown bats and northern long-eared bats, as I recall. One of the bats, though, had a band, a metal band on its wing. And that particular bat had been banded in that cave, I found out later on, 27 years before. A decade later, when Fish and Game went back, I wasn't with the crew that time, they found the same bat there. So that bat, true hibernator, was at least 37 years old. So the other third true hibernator that I saw, as part of my duties as a wildlife biologist for the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department, I would do 100 or more duck nesting boxes each winter. You go and you check the box and you see if it was used by a wood duck or a hooded merganser, and you can actually count the egg fragments to see whether it was successful or not, or predated by, say, a raccoon. But this particular day, and I recall it was actually Groundhog Day. It was February 2nd. I was at my favorite marsh where I grew up, Little Cohas Marsh in Londonderry, and I popped open this box and began to pull. They had a lot of nesting material that was not the shavings that had been placed in there by me the previous winter, but some grass and such. And as I parted it, there was a meadow jumping mouse, a true hibernator, one of our 7 sleepers. So, very unique animal. They have a very long tail, and they kind of hop around. If you've ever seen one move, they hop around like a kangaroo. So they have a very distinct way of getting around at times, a very long tail, and this one was sound asleep, you know. He was truly hibernating. So I parted the grass and took a look at him and gently tucked him back in to that duck nesting box to let him finish the winter in that. And there's also other bats that I have seen wintering have been in buildings. I have removed wintering big brown bats from a couple of buildings, or several buildings years ago, and tried to keep some of them here to overwinter them, and I have done YouTubes on that. Oh yeah, I forgot. Hit the like button, and if you would subscribe. I think I'm like at 94 or 95 subscribers. Hey, can you help me hit the 100 mark and subscribe to my YouTube channel right now? So yes, hit the subscribe button wherever it is. Now, other sleepers. So we have some sleepers that are not true hibernators, and actually near and dear to me is black bears. As the Hampshire Fish and Game Department's first black bear biologist, beginning in 1978, I often entered some winter dens of black bears. They're not some cave or mine like the bats. It's a brush pile. It's a blowdown. It's some cover, but very little. And usually you can actually look and see the bear in many cases. All depends on how much snow there is, and the bear is watching you. So they are logy but not sleeping. And of course, bears begin hibernation in November. Mother bear right now, late January, this is when mother bears are giving birth to their young. So as they are sleeping, they will give birth to 5 or 6 inch long cubs, and they will nurse them, and keep them alive and well and warm them through the winter, no matter the conditions, without ever eating or drinking or urinating or defecating. So for 5 or 6 months now, right now, so it's January, so not till April will they come out of den and begin to feed. So almost 4 months these bears will be nursing their cubs without drinking a drop or eating a thing. Isn't that amazing? So another sleeper are skunks. Have I seen sleeping skunks? I have not, but I have dealt with some. Back in 1983, I began a part-time business. I worked full-time as a wildlife biologist for the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department for 31 years. But in 1983, I began a nuisance animal control business, mostly for bats, called Bat and Wildlife Control Specialist. But over the years, I was called upon to do a few other things. And I remember this one house. It was on South Spring Street in Concord. It was late winter, early spring, and there was quite a fragrance of skunks in their porch, their attached porch that they used at this particular house. So I was hired to remove the skunks. They were just sort of waking up. So I actually built a fence around what was clearly the entrance and exit point for the skunks. So I built a fence so that other skunks couldn't come there, and I put my live traps within that fenced-in area and began trapping skunks. Skunks, you will learn right now, often sleep winter in groups. And in fact, I captured 21 skunks from under that deck. Yes, there was a whole bunch of skunks wintering under this lady's house, a total of 21, before I actually then repaired the hole so other skunks couldn't get in there. So skunks often sleep. They go for days or even weeks without eating. Warmer weather, like right now, they might come out a bit. And of course, the male skunks, guarantee you, Valentine's Day, somewhere in central or southern New Hampshire, you are going to smell a skunk. A male skunk. They come out every year, Valentine's Day, because they are seeking the love of their life, and they start it almost always on Valentine's Day, February 14th. So we are a month from smelling skunks again. What other animals? So we have bears, we have skunks, chipmunks. Chipmunks, yes, they sleep for days or even weeks on end. Skunks, actually, unlike most of the other animals, have buried in the ground, and they will fill up their cheeks with sunflower seeds and corn here, and they lug them off. I watch them all fall along, skittering off, scampering off with mouthfuls of corn and bird seed to their winter dens, because they actually feed through the winter. So they have dug deep enough to get below the frost line in the